Raf, welcome. So tell us more about this rescue and about how these hostages are doing now.
So, Alex, we just came from the Tel HaShomer hospital in the greater Tel Aviv area. It's where those 4 hostages you see on your screen were brought after they were rescued from Gaza. The Israeli military says that they are in good condition. Now, there are families celebrating across Israel tonight, but the face that is best known around the world is that of Noa Argamani, that 26-year-old woman who was seen, her hands outstretched in terror as she was taken on the back of a motorcycle into Gaza. Now, you see her there on your screen reuniting with her father, Yaakov. Alex, we met Yaakov on October 8th, less than 24 hours after his daughter had been kidnapped, the worst day of his life. He was, as you can imagine, a broken man, and we saw him just an hour ago at this hospital, having spent the afternoon holding his daughter once again. And it is hard to overstate the joy just radiating from this man, having his only child back in his arm. Now, this is not a story totally unalloyed, without any sadness. Noah's mother, Leora, has terminal brain cancer. She is in another hospital in Tel Aviv. It has been her dying wish for these 8 months to hold her daughter once again, and we are told that Noah is going to be reunited with her mom sometime later this evening, local time. Now, in terms of this raid, it happened in central Gaza in broad daylight, and Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari, the spokesman for the Israeli military, described it a little earlier. Take a listen.
This was a high-risk, complex mission based on precise intelligence conducted in daylight in 2 separate buildings deep inside Gaza. This is what we do in Israel. We risk our lives to save the lives of our hostages.
So, Alex, we are still learning more details about this raid, but the IDF says that Noah was held in one apartment building, and these 3 male hostages who were also kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival on October 7th held in another apartment building about 200 meters away. The Israeli military says it hit both apartments simultaneously, and when those Israeli commandos had the hostages safe, they gave the agreed-upon code word, which was, "We have the diamonds. We have the diamonds." That was the refrain that echoed in the command center at the Defense Ministry here in Tel Aviv, the IDF saying that there was just an enormous moment of elation. But while there is celebration here in Israel tonight, Alex, there is grief in Gaza. The health ministry in Hamas-run Gaza is saying 150 people were killed in the course of this Israeli raid on central Gaza. It happened at 11 a.m. in a crowded marketplace. Officials in Gaza are saying a large number of civilians have lost their lives here. The Israeli military says their forces came under intense fire as they extracted the hostages and that they had no choice but to call in air support. They are insisting that this was very, very targeted fire. But of course, this is just the latest in what has been a long string of incidents in recent weeks where Israeli fire appears to have taken the lives of innocent people inside of Gaza. Alex.
Raf, wonderful news about the hostages, but let me ask you about this last point. Does that demonstrate to the world the way Hamas embeds itself within civilian communities? If you're telling me that these 4 were rescued in 2 separate targeted attempts to get them, successful as it was, and up to 150 Palestinians, presumably many of them innocent, were killed, does it just go to further show the world what Hamas does and how they hide?
So that is certainly what the Israeli military is saying. They are saying that Hamas cynically held these hostages in a crowded area in Nuseirat in central Gaza, that these hostages were being held in apartment buildings 3 or 4 stories high. And in these buildings, you had ordinary Palestinian families living in some apartments, and you had armed guards holding these hostages in others. And they say that the hostages were moved repeatedly, but that they were very often held in these crowded public areas. Now, Alex, it was very interesting Noah Argamani, in a conversation with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu earlier on today, said to the leader of Israel, "I haven't spoken in Hebrew in such a long time." We know that she was being held alone today at the time of her rescue. That comment seems to indicate that she was being held on her own for significantly longer than that she may have been separated from the other hostages. And we have heard just all variety of stories over the course of talking to freed hostages from Gaza. In some cases, they were held in tunnels, in large groups, people sometimes from the same kibbutz, all being held together. And in other times, you have hostages who were held completely on their own. And the indication at this point appears to be that Noah Argamani spent quite a long time on her own, and it may be that the first Hebrew she heard in a very long time was that of the Israeli Special Forces who burst through the door to rescue her. Alex.
One more quick question. This has just come to me. So if this is someone who was allegedly moved around from place to place, and you describe these 3- and 4-story apartment buildings as being occupied by ordinary Palestinian civilians, and yet she would have armed guards around her, is there any way to escape thinking that some of these Palestinians were aware that at least some high-value person was there among them? Have you ever talked in your travels and while reporting to Palestinian citizens who thought there might have been a hostage near us?
You know, Alex, it's a very difficult question to answer. We obviously are not able to get inside of Gaza without being escorted by the Israeli military. We aren't able to speak to the people of Gaza about what they have gone through these last 8 months. Hamas is, among many things, an authoritarian group that governs Gaza, with an iron fist. It's a complicated movement. It has a lot of popular support, but it does not hesitate to crack down on those who defy it. So it is very difficult to say what those Palestinian civilians living inside that building where hostages were held, it's difficult to say what they knew, it's difficult to say what they didn't know, and it's difficult to say what they would have been afraid to discuss publicly, even if they did know. Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. The intimidation there. Okay, Ralph Sanchez, thank you very much for the news. We appreciate that.